Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of Talk Out. And tonight, I'm just having a really free-flowing, easy conversation with a very good friend of mine, Lanaya. And we are going to talk about friendship. And by the way, I should say this from the
Like
jump.
friendship or like relationship,
Friendship,
like all that.
everything included. And this is not like an interview, so this is more of a conversation. You're more
Yeah.
than welcome to asking me questions as well. I'm definitely not shy being on here. Do you want to go first with sharing your thoughts on relationship and friendship?
No, you can go.
Yeah, I don't mind actually. I would say this, that I understood what friendship was because of my very, very close circle in Germany. And one thing, and also thanks to my mentor as well, both my mentor here in America and my mentors in Germany, because they taught me, what they taught me was that friendship requires, it's in order to have a true friendship, what is absolutely necessary is excruciating honesty. And
I agree with that.
that for me was like, it's easy for me to dish out this excruciating honesty, but to
Receive
it was like hard at first,
Yeah.
because and what it does is that the people close to me end up being mirrors, and they have me question my principles, they challenge my beliefs, and they also encourage me and push me forward. And at times I notice that within myself I might not be ready for the boundaries that they're pushing me towards, but thank God I have them in my life to kind of like push me towards those boundaries. So that for me is the idea of friendship. So like very often, I might use the word friend generically, but when I'm talking about my close circle, those are my true friends. But very often when I use the word friend generically, I'm just talking about people I associate myself with, people who I might have a good conversation with or meet up for certain events. But friendship for me is like, and also those people have seen the very worst sides of me, which I'm not proud of, but were necessary to show in those moments. But those people are very special because of that.
Well, when you say like, so if you said, oh, like I'm going to see my friend, it's someone who you like consider like a good friend, right? Or are you saying that like friend is
Associate.
just, but don't, why though? Like to me, I think it's so, like actually I caught myself today because someone asked me about this person, it was someone who I know who owns a restaurant.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, like my friend owns it. And I corrected myself, like, oh, it was the girl who I actually worked with, because like that's not like my friend.
Yeah,
like it's someone who I definitely have like a good associative relationship with.
Exactly.
So I usually would just use the term as like someone that I know. Um, for me, I feel like friendship is like I had like a very toxic relationship with my biological mom growing up. And like a lot of like my friends like saw and realized like a lot of like the abuse and like just emotional like and mental trauma I was going through. So like I really friendship for me is like almost like family. Like if you're my friend, like I can have $1 left to my name and I'll give you that dollar. Like you could literally need anything and I'll give it to you. Like and there's not a lot of many people who I really consider like a true friend. You know what I mean? Like I have like a good close group of people who I consider friends and who have my back and have always had my back, and like people who I know who I can call on like if I needed anything, and vice versa. So like that's friendship. If I think like you're an associate, it's like, yeah, like I used to, like if it's a girl who I used to like work with or a guy who I used to like, see at the gym, it's like those are just like associates. I'm like, oh yeah, I know them. I used to go to the gym. Oh yeah, I know her. I used to work with her. Oh, like I know that because of that. Like I don't look too like I don't want to use friendship as like an associate.
Yeah, I think for it's just the fact that I'm a social butterfly, so I'm around a lot of people. I have a lot of great connections with people, and sometimes it might even reach to the space where we're having like deep conversations. But it doesn't mean I'm loyal to them, so that's why the friendship is not there. But I don't think there's. It's just I don't use the term associate outside of maybe this podcast that I'm saying now, and outside of conversations with people who I'm close to, because I think a lot of people hear that term and they're offended by it, or they think it lessens the meaningful nature of my interaction with that person. I'm still very intentional and authentic. It's just the fact that if you're not the person who I'm going to call at 3 a.m. in the morning, or 4 a.m. in the morning, or I'm going through difficulty. But that's fine, because I'm sure I'm not that person for you either, and that's okay. So when I use the term associate, it's not a bad thing at all. I think it's just completely natural. It just means we're not committed to one another, and that's okay.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, 100%. I think that like, friendships, like I value like a lot of my friendships and the people who I have in my life. And like you said, like they're mirrors, they are. And sometimes
Mm.
it's hard, like you said, like with the truth, like and getting like the feedback. But like honestly, like
Mhm.
I feel like over the years, especially like 2018, I really worked on myself to be receptive to feedback, and also like worked on myself on how I want to be viewed as a person and as a friend. And I have to say, like the friendships I have now, the people who really went through like the time before I moved to Colorado, and like how I was in terms of like, I would get mad at like a drop of like a dime. Like if something
Mhm.
happened, I would be quick to like attack. Whereas now I'm like not really like that. Like I'll be upset, but before I was more magnetized. I went more off emotion than like thinking. And it's like the friends who I have now who've seen me and the person who I am like today and the woman I am and everything like that, like they're just like they've seen that long road. And unfortunately there's people who I'm no longer friends with just because they couldn't like let go of the old person I used to be, and
Yeah.
that and I think but then I think that rings true to like people change, like you outgrow people. Like it's
Mhm.
normal to outgrow people. Like we in 10th grade or might not have the same relationship as like an adult.
Oh, for sure. I
Like
hope
it's
not.
always going to change. And like I love my friends change. I love like how I change. And I think the biggest thing that helps in friendships is communication.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people don't believe it. Like I don't think a lot, I shouldn't say a lot of people don't
Mm.
believe it, but communication is key, because how you carry yourself and how you treat others is a direct reflection on you. So
Mm.
if you are ill will toward others or doing anything like, malicious, like that's a reflection on you. You may not be doing it to the person that's directly next to you,
Mm.
but you're still doing it. Same with, you treating people kind. Like you're someone who treats all their friends kind. People are going to see that. People are going to want to be your friend because you're a good person. So like I try and strive to be like a good person. I have my
Mhm.
flaws, but like I
Mm.
try, you know?
It's very interesting you say that, because like I'll tell you this story off air, but I won't say it on air because it'll rehash something I'm trying to bury. But off air, I'll tell you a story that I have no interest in being a good person to most people. I have an interest in being a good person to my very close friends, and how they perceive me is really important to me. But I've noticed that that's why I call people associates, because the relationship that, because I'm not committed to it, I can be unbothered if it changes and it flips like a switch. And um and I remember that something had happened that I didn't agree with, and I share my opinions on it. And if I have this idea that, like, whether you like it or not, I'm gonna say my thoughts. How you deal with that, it's gonna be your issue. But if I believe in something and I don't agree with it, I'm gonna say it out loud. And a lot of people didn't agree with me, and a lot of people were calling me certain things that I knew they didn't believe were true. And but I was like, oh, this is not that important, because you were only a friend I hung out with to play video games or go to the movies or do this, or we would have certain conversations, but you're not a close friend of mine. So like, this will be, let me just bring out the scissors. This will be very easy to cut. So that's why I have no intention. Like, you can on I off air, I'll tell you, people were saying the wildest things about me, and I was like, actually, it's cool. No one is gonna say it to my face. You're gonna say it online. But I would go to the spaces and see these people in person, and no one was saying anything because they know I check them. So,
Isn't it crazy how people say things online or like behind your back and like they never say anything to you because they know that you check them?
yeah, but I also, like, what I've discovered is, like, it's also okay, because it shows me where your principles lie, and I can just honor that and respect it and just keep a compassionate distance. So I'm not bothered by it. But what I'm saying is,
Off
like,
air, we'll talk about remind the
yeah,
principles because
we'll talk about
yeah,
that.
we'll talk about
Um,
it.
but the reason I'm saying that is because, like, I think there was a time, especially before I started meditating 6 years ago, where I felt like I wanted people outside of I wanted everyone to see me as a good person, and now I don't give a fuck at all. Actually, like you can say the worst things about me as long as it doesn't impact me financially. I don't mind. If anything, I would encourage you to spread it because I want my name to go out there. And that's what I was doing with the nasty posts and stuff people were doing. I just took screenshot, I shared it online, and then it kind of helped boost up my my
See, I feel
reputation.
like it's like I think when I say like wanting to be a good person, stuff like that, like it's just I mean, I don't care what people think of me.
Yeah.
Like I don't care what someone at the grocery store who I've never met thinks of me. They could say, "Oh, she has like a resting bitch face" or something like that. That doesn't affect me because you don't know
Mm.
me. I think like people who I've come across in my life, especially people who I've been good to,
Mm.
like and kind to, and never have done anything malicious to them, like that's what I'm saying. Like being a good person, like if they were to say something negative about me, that would like bother me.
Mm.
It depends on the relationship to a certain extent, but like I would want my friends to be like, she's a good person. And I know people out there who are genuine, who
Mm.
know me and like love me. I hear from other people say, "Oh my God, like, I knew like this person who said they knew you and like they said you were so like nice." And it's like, if there's not everyone's gonna like you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not a people pleaser. I'm not gonna go out of my way to people please one. I'm like the first one to be like, no.
Mm.
I just think that, people in my life, like professionally, and close friend wise, I want to make sure that like I'm a good person to those people who are good to me. If you're not good to me and I've been good to you, it's noted. Just like you said, like principles,
Mm.
you take that note, you step back. And I think that's the only as much as you can do. And, you know, I also believe in karma and I believe in like what you manifest, like comes to you and stuff. And like if you're, just casting the first stone, it's going to get back at you. I went to church actually,
Mm.
Miss Hill's church,
Yeah,
and there
yeah.
was a pastor. You went, you went
Vibe,
to. Oh my god,
vibe.
oh my
Yeah,
god,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
no, you went that day. We have to go back. Shout out to Miss Hill if thing, but he was like anyone who ever tried to get to me, God has always got. Like, and he's
Mm.
like, if anyone tried to, how he used the analogy is like, if you're a snake in a garden and you bite me,
Mm.
then there's something coming for you, and that's not me, it's God. He was like this. He was crazy. You should have went to that. My parents were like, what the heck, like, but he was just like, this one guy cast, like, bit me. He's like, and he crashed his motorcycle. Another person did this, choked on Burger King. And I was like, that's insane. I don't want anyone to die or anyone to crash.
Yeah,
But it
yeah.
just was teaching you the lesson of like, and I also really believe in God is like, you know what? That's out of my hand and that's God's thing. Because maybe something's going on in their life
Mm.
that they feel the need to, maybe they see my life and how good I'm doing
Mm.
and they try and take me down. That's a you problem. That's not a me. And so sometimes when I get like upset about something or anything, I have to reflect and be like, this is not my problem. That's an issue that they have with God.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Not, well,
Yeah.
they have it with me, but God got my back. So if something happens to you and you're like, why is this happening to me? Bitch, it's because God got my back. So
I love that. I love that. For me, what's interesting is like because you had mentioned professionally, and I wanted to just comment on that. What's interesting is outside. I think this work environment is the probably first or second one of my entire life where I actually hung out with people outside of work. I never make friends at work, actually, not in a bad way, but only because like this is gonna sound harsh, but roll with me until the end.
I already know what you're gonna say.
I'm a very kind person, but I'm also extremely careless. So
No, you
like,
really are.
yeah, so I think because people see me as very kind, they think I care. I usually don't. Um,
No, you definitely don't.
but it doesn't mean I'm not supportive. I won't hold space for people or be there to help them out. But it's just the fact that like one thing that people get mixed up very very often is like my kindness at work does not mean I'm interested in being friends. And so sometimes I have to draw strong boundaries for certain people so they know that. And also, it doesn't mean I'm willing to do things for you that I would do for my friends. So I'm quite cautious about that, especially in the work that we work in, because we're working with people and we're working with emotions and we're supporting one another to a certain degree. as staff members, we hold space for one another. Yet at the same time, I do have to like let people know that like I am not your friend, so don't talk to me like one. And secondly, like I don't need your love or approval because I have a dog, and he gives me that all the time.
Period.
So that for me was always very very interesting. That people would think that like their work opinions or work comments would matter to me, because one thing I always go back and I do this for two reasons. One, because I'm a capitalist, but two, because I'm an asshole. I will go back and read my contract and I'll show them my contract. I'm like, this isn't in my contract. Like, your opinion is not in my contract. Like, what you think of me, what you think of my political beliefs, what your political beliefs are, I don't give a fuck. Like, it's not in my contract. My contract is to do these sets of things. And a lot of people are not able to divorce their political beliefs and their work life, or their friendships or their relationships in their work life. And they want to like mesh them. I refrained from doing that because I've seen where it's gone. So like, outside of
But that's because they don't know what critical thinking is. I literally took like a class last fall and it was critical thinking. And it's like, say you and I are in an argument.
Yep.
Like I have to be open to even understand where you're coming from. I might not like agree, but be receptive to what you're saying, and vice versa, where it's like, you feel this, I feel this. Okay, so like, what do you understand from what I'm saying? What do I understand from what you're saying? What is the solution in the middle? A lot of people just want to fight their point and badger it, and they're never going to see the other side. But when you use critical thinking and you actually look to a problem for a solution or a resolution, it doesn't have to be one person's right, one person's wrong. It's like, what's a common ground that we can agree on? Exactly. Like, and that's why you have those conflicts, because people are not willing to like get off their horse and be like, okay, like I'm wrong. Me in the situation, in any situation, I can admit when I'm wrong. Like, and I will do so. I don't like when I do admit like when I'm wrong, or people be like, okay, well, I feel this way, but like, I will never say but when I'm admitting that I'm wrong. Like, I will never use an excuse like, I understand where you're coming from, but I would be like, okay, like I'm receptive. I understand what you're saying. You're saying this is this because of this. And I agree with that. There's certain things I won't back down from. And that's like, pro-choice and stuff like that. Like, it's a woman's choice what she does with her body and everything. But, other things like racism, like there's no.
But here's my thing. So like, let's take it outside of the environment where we work. Let's pretend that we're construction workers. Because very often, like, and I tell people this all the time, and it's so interesting because my mentor, we had a podcast together, and that's titled How to Win at Work. And he kind of raised me to be the way I am. So if you even notice our gestures and the way we speak and our cadence, I basically just followed his footsteps. But so I have a lot of his same beliefs. What he taught me is that, like, and I agree with him, it's like our political and personal beliefs are rarely ever necessary at work. So let's, for example, pretend that we are construction workers, right? And let's say I really messed up, and instead of using concrete for the foundation, I used wood, right? And we're having this conversation, this and that, and you are in the right, saying like, why didn't you use concrete, Tibbs? Why did you think it was necessary for you to use wood? And then instead of discussing the problem that's at hand and the one that we need to solve, which is the fact that I used wrong material, I'm like, she probably thinks this way because she voted for Trump. It's like, wait, what?
Oh my God, no. One day someone literally said to me, I was like, oh yeah, like I love like chickens that are like from the farm, like because I know they lived a good life. And he's like, let me guess, you voted for Biden. I was like, I just know that they were grazing in 12 acres versus getting beaten. Like, he's like, with their chicken, doesn't matter. I said, I don't know. I feel like I'm contributing to good when I buy. Like, I'm like, what?
So whenever I enter these kind of, I call them like stalemates. I'm like, actually, you win, because number one, and this is not even to sound. Well, no, it is going to sound arrogant. And
just so you know, we're 40 seconds and for our friendship, and then we can take a quick pause and talk about relationships.
Oh, God. Okay, great. To wrap this up, when we have these stalemates, I just create this compassionate distance. I let the person be right, and I'm like, actually, you're right about whatever you believe. Doesn't change my mind, but you're clearly right about what you think.
And you know what? Okay, and I can understand with that. And I think something that I've like learned, especially like the past few months, is like I found myself caring a little bit too much about like what bottom rung people think of me.
Yeah,
Bottom rung. And I'm like, well, Kenya, like, and so I'm just like, you know what, like, I can't let what someone thinks of me affect like who I am like as a person, because you could say whatever about me, but I'm gonna do me. And that's like in any world, like anyone who I come across, like, like in like work, not everyone's gonna like you, and life, not everyone's gonna like you, like in like different situations, not everyone's gonna like you. So I had to like revere myself to be like, you know who you are, that's it. And what someone thinks about you is, it's irrelevant. But that's a lesson for me on if it was someone who I was like close to, or if I knew, I'm like, that's noted, and I know how to move like along.
Beautiful.
So
do you want to pause it, or can we keep this going and then jump into?
Let's pause it, because I'm gonna pour more wine.
Okay, got it. Let me wait. Don't say anything because we're still on air, just so you know.
We still on this.
Alrighty. So
we're back.
This is the second part of it. And now we're discussing relationships. So, do you want to start, Lanaya? Tell me about your dating life, your idea of relationships, and just flow from there.
Yeah. So, I actually am on a healing journey right now, and I'm taking a break from relationships, as well as intimacy from men. I have been celibate for almost a year now, and I have to say that the journey is very eye-opening. Like, and I know it sounds crazy, but like the more I've been, like, has, months and months of me being celibate, I just realized how I'm not even ready for a physical touch from the opposite sex right now. Wow. Because I've just been like healing so much like trauma from before that like came up for me, and like just little things. And it's like a journey that's like super hard. And I just have to say, just also celibacy, I feel like when people say they're celibate, sometimes people assume that they were like this promiscuous person before, and I was not promiscuous. Anyone who knows me knows I am like least from. So like before I even went on the journey of being like completely celibate, like I probably like I was with a person, not with, like I was seeing a guy who lived in Atlanta, and that was like the person who I was intimate with. And I seen him like twice, like in the whole time from like when we started like talking. So, and before then, I don't even remember. Like, so it's like, it wasn't like this journey that I was on. I was just like, all right, you know what? Like, I'm going to be celibate. I'm not going to like try and talk to any guys. I'm not going to try and date any guys. And like, if I do talk to a guy, like letting them know up front, like, hey, like this is like what I'm doing right now. Like, can you respect that? Like, then going from there. And so far it's been good. I mean, it's definitely like, it's easy, like to the point where I'm now, but like, I'm seeing, like I said, I'm seeing a therapist, and like, just like healing, just like old wounds that I had, relationships, and like just kind of like remembering I always know my self-worth from the get-go, but like coming up with just, I don't want the next person who I date to like deal with like any like trust issues that I have from like childhood or like from an ex. So I don't know when I'll probably date again, but it's like not now. I do enjoy sometimes though, like downloading Hinge and Bumble. Just feel like seeing what's out there. And every time that I've like looked, it's the water's murky, just like the Connecticut River. I'm like, all right, I'm not missing anything. Just making sure, like, seeing what it is. But yeah, it's like mine right now. Like, how have you been? You got like a bugaboo fighting when sex is?
No.
You know what they said? What does Meg Stallion say? Everything's better in Texas.
No, how do I say this? All right, I'm gonna speak on this generally, but I also want to just really give you a huge appreciation just for your vulnerability. I really value that. I have this theory, though. That's why I have to speak about my relationships generally. I
think one day I'll be able to talk about what was the main reason why I decided to go on the journey. Yeah. Not now. I think like I just would want, it's just too fresh. But it's very
Intense.
Yeah, intense on both ends. And yeah, it's intense. But it just, yeah.
Okay, I will never.
It's not
that.
like, no, it's,
I'm not.
it's just, you know, I was just, it was, I'm trying to think of how to say it without like talking about like the reason why. I mean, I wasn't like, you know, just to put it out there, it wasn't like sexual assault or anything that made me go on the journey. But just like I was just making, I think, questionable decisions about who I was involving myself with. And you know, and how I was allowing myself to be treated in those situations. And to be honest, I feel like I was being sexualized by like the men in my life a lot and not being like looked at as like a person. You know, like as someone who has like feelings and stuff. I think I was just sexualized. And I'm like, okay, like in a relationship you can have like great sex and everything like that, but like I don't want that. Like, but like I want like I mean, I know what I bring to the table, but I'm just saying like on the side note, it's like I want like a companion. But so I was like, okay, how I think I was just very hurt and like what was going I didn't process like a situation that I ended like 2 years ago and everything like that. So I think I was just like taking out, like not taking out, but like really not giving someone a chance. Like I definitely like should have given the person in Atlanta a better chance. Like, but I think I was just like assuming the worst from him because like if I know he's gonna let me down, then that's okay. If I catch it first versus him letting me down. I wasn't giving him the opportunity. I was just assuming.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get that completely, actually. Does he need to go to the bathroom?
No, he's fine.
Okay. Hey, buddy.
But yeah, go ahead.
No, what I was saying is that, number one, thank you for your vulnerability. That's greatly appreciated. And secondly, the reason I speak about my relationships very generally is because I treat it almost like my spiritual practice. It's like anything that's very sacred, I like to keep it close to my heart. Only because, unfortunately, not everyone, but there are a few people in the world who ruin beautiful things. That's something I never want to be ruined. But speaking of it very, very generally, I would say that I had a romantic interest, and it was so interesting to journey with that person because is he good? Okay. The reason I think I'm the mic's on you, so if you go, it's not gonna hear me. The mic's on you, remember?
Oh man, it is.
Yeah, it's right on your thing.
Well, I thought you were wearing one too.
No, it's right on you. So yeah, now I'll wait for you to resolve that. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
Probably just really shy. Where was I?
The journey.
Yeah. So, what was so interesting about that journey is that the person pushed me and pushed my boundaries in so many ways, and they pushed me like intellectually and emotionally, and they really tapped into my vulnerability, and I really appreciated that, you know. And at the same time, because of the circumstances that presented itself, unfortunately, there's no way to actually for either one of us to commit to one another. So it puts me in a very interesting space where, as a romantic, I'm always open to the idea of love. I think that's something that I personally would never shut myself away from. As many times I've been scarred, hurt, had my heart broken, rejected, let on. I'm okay with that actually because I always leave with no regrets, knowing, especially if I've opened my heart up continuously. There's a beautiful quote by Rumi, and he says that you must constantly break it open. And through all of my interactions with people, whether they're temporary or long lasting, they've always opened my heart up to a certain degree, and that I'm very grateful for.
It's so crazy that you say that too, because like, so like I would say like a situationship that I was like in, like part of the reason why I went to Colorado was one, I had like a euphoric moment, and like we can do that for like a different day, like where I could tell you what happened.
Yeah.
But I was like, I kind of was like, all right, I'm go all in. Because you know what, in 5 years from now, if I'm like married and it's not this person or I'm not with this person, I could take a look back and be like, I know that I did that. Like I completed it. I don't want to live my life with regrets. I don't want to live my life thinking like, what could I have done better in the situation? And you know what's crazy is like with the guy that I was talking to Atlanta, I think about the regrets constantly with him. On this healing journey, I think about like how I like maybe overreacted to some types of things. And like I've wanted to like kind of like reach out and just be like, hey, like, because there's some things that he's like said to me that I was like, damn, like I'll be like completely honest and vulnerable right now. But one time we're hanging out and like I like my own space. So like, you know, he had came over to like where I was staying and he had slept over the night before and like he was just gonna come over and we were just gonna like eat and like just talk and like hang out, whatever. And so I feel like in past relationships or situations before, I was always expected to like have sex, like, you know, whereas like, you know, with him, he was like, oh, like I'm gonna leave in like 10 minutes because it's getting late. And I was like, yeah, I'm like super tired. I have an early day tomorrow, meeting up with friends, whatever, because I was visiting. And so like when he said, yeah, like, you know, I'm gonna leave in 10 minutes, I like kind of like crawled onto his lap, like to straddle him. And he's like, what are you doing? And I was just like, what? Like, and he was just like, we don't have to have sex like every time that we hang out. And I was just like, what do you mean? Like, you know, like I was like, and then I tried to be like, well, I'm a sexual person, like in a relationship. He's like, no, like it doesn't have to be like that. And I like didn't understand it until I've been celibate now and talking to my therapist and realizing that like men in my past life have like just like not my past life, but like men who I've been with before have just like wanted like a sexual thing. So like in that moment I appreciate him because like that really made me like think like, wow, like we can hang out and not have sex. Like that's not expected from me. Like, you know, like someone wants to hang out with me just for like me and not for like my body, you know? And so that was just like a really big like eye opener for me and like processing that. So there's some things that I just want to be like, hey, like I just want to let you know, like I really appreciate you for like XYZ because you really like opened my eyes to like things. It sucks because like he was like constantly trying to hang out with me. Like, and they always want you when you move. And he was constantly trying to like hang out with me like when I moved and kept in touch. And like then, you know, I think I should have back then I was just like, I don't want to be in a relationship or I don't want to talk to anyone. And I really wish I would have just stuck to that. Because I think like it would have been different for him and I if I would have stuck to that. Because he is literally like everything, like he has all the goals. But you know what? At the end of the day, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. And if not, like, you know, the next person will. But I definitely know what it is that I want. The dog. Well, you're touching his neck, so of course he's making noise.
Oh, is that what he doesn't like that?
No, you're just, that's like, you know, if someone tickles you.
Oh, that's.
You're like touching all the trigger points.
Oh, baby. You know, there's a
touching all your trigger points.
Beautiful quote. I actually used it in a book that I had written, where it says, "My heart is at ease, knowing that what is meant for me will never miss me,
yeah,
and what misses me was never meant for me." And there's a peace that comes with that, and I think that's why, like, I have this. I mean, whatever, I'll say it now. The next book I'm working on, the title is something that I've been working on recently. How do I love wastefully? Because I know that like I have such a strong foundation. My family, my dog, my circle, they replenish me with so much love every single day. So like I can just give it away, you know? So I don't want to be one of those people that's guarded and my heart's guarded. I'm like, I can't say that, I can't say that. Like, if I love my friend, I want to hug my friend. If I think they look great, I want to give them compliments. If you know, if a student is doing well, I want to make sure that they get the praise that they deserve, you know? Like that's my thing now. So like even romantically, because I remember there's like times where like maybe I really felt something about someone, but I was afraid of telling them that because I was like, oh, she's gonna, you know, she's gonna feel like she has a one up over me. She's gonna take my vulnerability for weakness, or she's gonna think that, you know, she can just leave me and kind of like lead me on. And now I'm like, even if she does, like I'm gonna survive because I've been through this before. So like my whole thing now is just like love wastefully, love wastefully.
And I think that that's like my thing. Like I'm just trying to get back to a point where I'm like, where I even feel like comfortable with like being in a relationship because I'm not right now. I don't trust people's intentions. Also, I think everyone cheats on everyone.
Okay.
I've seen so many people in relationships being celibate that cheat. And I'm not saying it's everyone, like, you know, but there's so many people who cheat. And I literally, there's also so many people who I know who are in happy, healthy relationships that don't cheat. Yeah. So I should say half the people who do cheat make me not want to be in a relationship. Not that everyone cheats. It's just very, you know, it's wild. And oh my, you need to stop because they're literally gonna listen to this, and it's like it's gonna be just, it's gonna sound like you, like panting like that in the background. That's a dog panting, by the way. I should say. Yeah, literally. Oh my gosh. But yeah, no, I mean, I'm hoping to one day get back to like a thing, but I'm really not in a rush. And I think the biggest thing is like for 4 years of my life, I gave up like a lot of myself for a person who didn't deserve it, including school. And like, I could already be done with like my doctorate program right now, but I'm not, you know, and like, I'm working my way to like get there and get into the doctorate program, like, you know, finishing like school right now. And so like, at the end of the day, it's like my focus right now is school and work because a degree is never going to leave me like at all. Like I'm not going to lose my bachelor's, my master's, and my doctorate. Like the son I've obtained, they're not going to leave me. A man will. And I've seen a lot of people talk, especially housewives and stuff, like who say like, you know, on TikTok, they're like, just, you know, like when I got divorced, like it was because he was treating me XYZ and like I didn't have any money because he was like the breadwinner and like, or they had a degree that they never used because they met when she like graduated or something. And I'm like, I don't want a man to ever define me. I want a man who comes and brings something to the table. And it doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have, like, I just want someone who is loyal, who I could trust.
Yeah. One thing I've been very, like, careful about is like they say that words are incantations. So just like, you know, when we spell words, it's almost like we're giving a magical power to them. When we say them, we do the exact same thing. So I'm very careful about saying certain things. I have the idea that like if somebody does leave me, I'll still survive. But like I never go into a relationship feeling that way because then I'll feel like I can't love wastefully, you know? So I go into my relationships seeing the very best in that person, hoping to actually cultivate that as well and to excavate it as best as I possibly can. And if it doesn't work out, well, it doesn't work out. Like I don't know, like I can share this because it's really old news. It's actually one of the reasons why I stepped into a spiritual journey. So my relationship, I had a very long-term relationship that was about 4.5 years. And that relationship ended. And this is what I mean by like the power of my circle and my friends and family and people who trust and believe in me. Through their support, I mean, I thought I would have never gotten over that relationship because I literally moved to Germany for this person. So it was a big thing.
I didn't know you moved to Germany for a girl.
Yeah, I'll tell you that whole story.
It's okay. I moved to Colorado. Not as quite as far. Ah, bless you, Jesus. But
so what I'm saying is that I had this experience, right? And I noticed that all I really needed was to take about 3 months for myself, and then after that I was like over the relationship, and I was able to date again and move forward. And I don't know, so that's why I have this idea that like, yes, okay, you left me. This is not the end. Like if anything, you've transformed me into somebody better. And I knew as soon as that relationship ended, I was like, I'm going to be better because of this. And it really helped me to be kinder, more compassionate, softer, hold space, be more loyal and committed to my friends and family. So, I don't know. There's nothing. I think everything is good. I don't think anything bad happens to people. Nothing happens to you. It happens for you. I truly do believe in that. And those are the words to go back to what I was saying.
Wait, you said nothing happens to you, happens for you?
For you, yeah.
You know what? And it's so funny. I tell people, like, especially my good friends, I'm like, instead of just saying, like, I told my best friend Jessica this, like, when something that was, like, really happening to her and her life, I said, Jess, instead of thinking, why is this happening to me? Be like, why is this happening for me? Exactly. You may not see it now, but you will soon. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you may not see it now, but you will soon. And she was just like, you're right.
For sure. And those are like the words I try to speak and be incantations I try to put out there, because I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we are literally manifesting and crafting our life every day. So what kind of life do I want? I want a beautiful one. So it's like,
same.
yeah. So that's just my thoughts on the matter.
Well, we have 52 seconds.
You want to wrap it up then?
Yeah. Thank you, everyone, for listening to our wonderful podcast. Well, it's not our podcast; it's your podcast. No, it's my ours. First episode. Oh, okay. Our episode. Maybe the next chapter would be like when I moved to Colorado.
And I can tell you why I won't move.
Yeah, and it'll just lay in it on the line. And Atlanta, I have crazy stories about Atlanta.
Next episode.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for listening. We'll see you guys later. Bye.
I'll stop it here.
Yeah.